there's incredible confusion. Not a single Israeli official, leader, anyone has stood up and spoken to the Israeli public. People are panicked. There are infiltrations of terrorists into at least 21 cities, towns, and villages in the south of the country. There are very credible reports that Israeli civilians and soldiers, alive and dead, have been taken hostage into the Gaza Strip. More than 80 wounded, some of them very severely, are in Soroka Hospital. This is a massive surprise attack for which Israel was unprepared, and there is an absolute dearth of leadership. It's something very difficult to describe.
It appears thousands of rockets are being fired from the Gaza Strip into Israel in a surprise attack by the Hamas militant group. Large plumes of black smoke have been seen rising from a number of Israeli towns. Images on social media show cars on fire and some buildings damaged. Noga Tarnopolsky is a reporter in Jerusalem. Noga, thank you for joining us. Can you just describe what you can see, what is happening around you right now?
Hi, Callum. Well, I'm in Jerusalem. I'm sorry I look a mess. I was awakened this morning a few hours ago to the sounds of air raid sirens. This has now happened 3 times, and in Jerusalem it's really unusual. We're nowhere near the Gaza border. There have been major booms. There are ambulances all around me, all kinds of alerts. What you're hearing behind my voice now, this is the air raid siren alert. Every ping that you hear is another air raid siren. There are missiles being launched into Israel now every second, more or less. 60, 70 times a minute.
And is that coming through on your phone, Noga?
Yeah, that is, and I thought it might be interesting I can turn it off, but I thought it might be interesting for the public to hear. Right now we have air raid sirens right outside my neighborhood in Ora. I've closed my window so you're not hearing the sound of it live. To the center of Jerusalem, southern Jerusalem, Yavne, the city of Ashdod, the city of Ashkelon, Tkuma, simply all of Israel, except for the north, right now is under active missile attacks. And I have to say, there's incredible confusion. Not a single Israeli official, leader, anyone has stood up and spoken to the Israeli public. People are panicked. There are infiltrations of terrorists into at least 21 cities, towns, and villages in the south of the country. There are very credible reports that Israeli civilians and soldiers, alive and dead, have been taken hostage into the Gaza Strip. More than 80 wounded, some of them very severely, are in Soroka Hospital. This is a massive surprise attack for which Israel was unprepared, and there is an absolute dearth of leadership. It's something very difficult to describe.
Gosh, and we really get an idea of the intensity of the situation based on the alerts that you were hearing there just in the last couple of minutes. Just as you're speaking, Noga, the Times of Israel is reporting that Israel's top-level security cabinet will hold a meeting today about this unexpected attack by Hamas, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is holding an assessment with security officials before that meeting. So reports the Times of Israel. In terms of what you will do, Noga, are you safe where you are? Is there anywhere else you can get to, given the widespread nature of these rocket attacks?
I think I'm as safe as anybody can be. I think Jerusalem is probably less vulnerable than the south of the country and then Tel Aviv. I live in a neighborhood that is a mixed Jewish-Arab neighborhood, and we have some bomb shelters nearby. I don't have one in my private apartment, but there's some nearby. And the missiles keep coming. I don't feel right now personally in danger, but it's possible that when I walk out of the flat to see what's going on, that I will feel more alarmed in terms of my personal security.
Yeah. And what from your flat, what can you see? You said you'd closed the window a moment ago so as to try to keep some of the noise
Yeah.
out, for example. What is happening?
Well, there's actually. Tell me if you want me to turn this off. I just thought it
Well,
could
maybe
be.
if you could, as long as that's okay for you, and you don't need to be paying close attention to those. If you could just for the next couple of minutes, that would be ideal.
Sure. What's going on is a very eerie, creepy silence. There's almost no cars on the streets, apart from these booms and the air raid sirens. I heard there's one kind of expression of alarm I heard from a neighboring family when the first air raid siren, the one that you played earlier, was going off. But since then, I've heard, a few like cries from mothers saying, get inside or that sort of thing. But the street in front of me is really, really dead. I mean, people are just locked up inside. There's a lot of fear.
In terms of then the fear, I'm trying to sort of get a grip on the comparative perspective on this, because some reports I've been reading this morning suggest that this is one of the heaviest attacks in years, in a long time. How would you contextualize what is happening for us?
That is without question correct. This is a massive attack. Israel was unprepared and should not have been. There's no question in my mind that there will be a national commission of inquiry. This is a scandal. But in addition, when I'm speaking to you, remember, no one has said a word to the Israeli public. So we can only assume right now from Palestinian reports and from the reports that personally people like me are getting from people we know who live in the south of the country, that there are numerous casualties. It's a surprise element. There's a kind of historic echo here, because 50 years ago, plus one day, in 1973, Israel suffered a surprise attack, which became known as the Yom Kippur War or the October War. And there have been a lot of commemorations of that war recently. The film Golda came out with Dame Helen Mirren playing then Prime Minister Golda Meir. So there's been a lot of kind of, I would say, not too serious public discussion about the responsibility of political leadership and how a surprise attack is never really a surprise. And today, Israel is living through an echo of that. It's not that the Egyptian and Syrian armies have invaded like they did then, and then you had soldiers at the front, but what you have now are civilians. There are home invasions right now from terrorists who infiltrate into Gaza. This is not an organized state army, but it is an organized fighting force, and it has perpetrated a massive, successful attack on Israel. Israel declared a major draft of its military forces, but that was an hour into this attack, so too late. And I'd say, I've not lived through something like it. And I think that I can't imagine that the government won't be severely compromised, no matter what the rest of this day brings.
Noga, we're very grateful for you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you very much, and we will keep in touch with you. But for now, thank you. That is Noga Tarnopolsky, a reporter in Jerusalem. So just to repeat, for those of you just joining us then, first of all, the noises that you could hear in the background, those alerts going off were on Noga's phone and devices. They are air raid alerts, basically. So, and every single ping represents another alert.
Another rocket.
Another rocket, basically.